What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. This is going to be a good one, a very good one. In preparation for the Chicago Bears versus Washington Commanders matchup in T-minus an hour and 15 minutes now, I got my two guys back on the stream. Sports Talk Chicago, John Z Sports in the house, and Paul Severino as well. Both Bears fans. Both of my former roommates. And guys, how are you guys doing tonight before this game starts up?
It's great to get the whole band back together, I have to say, man. You know, this brings back so many different memories, nostalgia, all the good times we had in college. But it's good to be back. You guys, you're doing great work on this channel. I know you're also grinding for law school, so I sympathize with you for that. But it's great to be here and looking forward to getting down into the nitty-gritty. Talking about tonight's matchup. It should be fun.
Yeah, it feels great. It's the true crossover, the Chicago Sports Zone episode.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Got a lot of love for Chicago. It is my second home. It is the second city, but not tonight, as I said in the description of this video. But before even getting to that, so I'm just going to dive into my thoughts really quickly on the William Jackson trade request. I don't know if you guys heard. What was once starting cornerback for our team, getting paid, I believe, $12 or $13 million this season, if not more, requested a trade after being de facto benched by the Washington Commanders. And my quick thoughts on this before diving into this matchup with you guys. I mean, it is what it is. It's a bust of a contract, bust of a deal with a player that I was pretty high on when we got him, but we could never really play to his strengths or really scheme up to his strengths. He's more of a man corner. We play more of a zone defense, and it is what it is. I think he's going to be traded, probably going to be for a 5th or 6th round pick, because who wants to take over that contract on top of the mediocre play that William Jackson has shown in the last couple of weeks? So, but yeah, I don't know if you guys have quick thoughts on that. I just wanted to say something about it because the news broke earlier today.
It's just so funny how it seems like this is happening to players in the secondary. I mean, you could argue the same thing happened with Eddie Jackson and the Bears. The Bears paid him a pretty significant deal, and only now is it technically starting to pay off, but really it's a bust of a contract too. So kind of a similar parallel situation, certainly frustrating for all of us, for fans. Last year, Eddie Jackson forgot how to tackle. Maybe this year he has 3 interceptions, and that's great, but we suffered through 2 years of watching his crap-ass play on the field. And it got to a point where we were all saying at one point, hey, maybe it's not a bad idea to trade him and unload that contract. So I can sympathize and I understand with how you're feeling and how the Washington community is feeling now, based on a similar situation that all of us Bears fans have faced in recent memory.
Mm-hmm. And it's also something. It always feels like news when NFL players ask for trades. Mm-hmm. It feels like, are we turning more toward an NBA style where, players getting benched want to trade, having to clear these contracts, maybe not even getting picks in return. It's kind of an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah. What's up, LF? I agree with you guys. It sucks, but it is what it is. Another bad stain on this putrid organization here in DC. But with that being said, I do want to get your guys' thoughts on the Chicago Bears and their start the season. Before even getting to that, though, I should have said this at the beginning. Go sub up Sports Talk Chicago. Make sure to include the link in the description. Also, go follow Paul as well on Twitter. Make sure to link his Twitter as well in the description. But having said that, let's get into it. So, Paul, what are your general thoughts on the Bears season thus far? They are 2-3. Have they exceeded your expectations? Had they fell below them, or pretty much been on par with what you thought they would be going into the season?
So in terms of record, I think this is sort of on par with what I expected. The one thing I am not super happy about, and it seems like it changed a little bit in the Vikings game, is Justin Fields' play. And I know that he's a developing quarterback, but in this league, it's so quarterback-centric. If you look at the good teams, not only do they have quarterbacks, but the bad quarterbacks tend to go to bad teams. For example, Baker Mayfield and, Mitch Trubisky. So I know.
Say that second. Oh, Paul, I'm sorry to interrupt. Say that second name again.
Mitch Trubisky.
Okay. Livisky. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So, I know we're still waiting for him to develop, And I did see some things in the Vikings game. Once he got comfortable and once the Vikings stopped, playing good football, he was going through his progressions and he was, getting yards rushing when he could. And I just wish I saw more of that from him, more at the beginning of games, and actually saw some sort of progression. It really feels like we're at the breaking point where, how long is it too long to wait when you trade up for a quarterback and he isn't performing and he, hopefully he'll progress a little more, but I'm not totally convinced. So in that regard, it's a little bit disappointing to me.
Okay. John?
Oh, I got a couple of rebuttals. So first of all, I like Baker Mayfield and I like Mitch Trubisky, and that is not nice of you to slander both those quarterbacks to my face, Paul, to my face. What the hell's wrong with you? I'm just kidding. Let's go to Justin Fields. Okay. I've been extremely disappointed in his play. And I think it's very fair to say that. There are a lot of people who sip the Justin Fields Kool-Aid, and week in and week out, I see comments on my video saying, you're being a hater, you're being a hater. Well, these are the same people who said Mitch Trubisky was a bust in 2018 when he threw for 6 touchdowns in a game, right? These are the same people. There's a double standard in Chicago, and for some reason, nobody wants to judge a quarterback based on merit. Everybody wants to judge a quarterback based on feelings. And if you judge based on feelings, at some point, you're going to get burned. If Bears fans continue to accept Justin Fields' performance through the first 4 games of the season, you're going to be stuck with a mediocre quarterback. And by next year, I would say it's time to start seriously considering making a change, signing a free agent to compete with him, or drafting somebody new outright. I know. So after 3 weeks in, PFF did a mock draft, and the Bears were supposed to take Bryce Young from Alabama. Now, I doubt that's going to happen. I doubt it's going to happen. And that was an overreaction to get people to click on the article. Nevertheless, it can be a realistic possibility if Justin Fields continues to tank the season. That said, I said in my last video this past weekend, best game of the whole year, best game of his career. I was okay with the Bears losing that game, even though it was a stupid play to end it. And Smith-Marsette should have just trickled out of bounds.
She got out of bounds.
Go to the sideline, idiot. But Justin Fields had a great game, 118.8 passer rating, very accurate, had a touchdown, and most importantly, held on to the football. Hey, I'm okay with quarterbacks being game managers if you just hold on to the football. And maybe that, I'm not looking for a Patrick Mahomes. I'm not looking for a Deshaun Watson on the field play. I'm okay with the quarterback putting up 1 touchdown, no picks, no fumbles, and just being okay and letting it go. Because at the end of the day, if you don't shoot yourself in the foot, more often than not, you're going to win football games. And in Justin Fields' case, he did not shoot himself in the foot for really the first time all season, and maybe the first time in his career. When you really look down the list at all of his games, that's why the Bears were in it. That's why they came back from a 21-3 deficit, which I also thought was extremely encouraging. The Bears fought. They showed fight. They played hard for Eberflus, for Poles, for this team, even though we all know some of these guys won't even be here come next year. So I thought last week was a very encouraging performance. We need to see him build off that. This team, but especially Fields, he needs to build off that tonight. We can't be going backwards now. You've shown us that you can perform at an elite-ish level. 118.8 passer rating to me is elite. So let's see you do it again. And that doesn't mean, hey, it has to be 120 tonight. But we need to see no turnovers, another touchdown or two. 250 yards would be amazing, but at least 200. He needs to build off that moving forward. That way we can all be relieved and know that he is the guy for the Bears moving forward.
Couple rebuttals. So first off, if he doesn't show some good things against this defense tonight,
exactly,
there are definitely some problems. Secondly, I've never been high on Justin Fields. A lot of Commanders fans in 2021, when Justin Fields was right there for the taking, if we traded up, a lot of Commanders fans wanted to trade up for him. And I was of the mindset that I'm good. Justin Fields was a highly touted prospect. He was a guy that was supposed to take over the league, but then he fell. Zach Wilson supplanted him as the second guy that was drafted in 2021. But to be honest with you, I've never been high on him. I'm still not high on him. I don't think he's your guys' future starting quarterback. I'm just going to be honest here. But I also want to say, Mitch Trubisky, if Justin Fields isn't, Mitch Trubisky sure as hell is not, okay? Was not, now, listen, is not, will never be, okay?
Mitch Trubisky is a Pro Bowl quarterback for 1 season, led a team to a playoffs, and nearly led a game-winning drive, should have had a game-winning drive in a playoff game.
Okay.
So when,
Carson
in a
Wentz
sense,
led-
we owed more to Mitch Trubisky to give him a shot than we owed to Justin Fields.
Yeah, and let me say this too.
Carson Wentz.
I'm butting in right now. You cannot slander my guy. Okay, that is very wrong.
I got benched for Kenny Pickett, who isn't
Yeah,
much
got
better.
benched for Kenny Pickett. And what was the score last week? Oh, yeah.
38-3, I know.
Points because they can't freaking score because it doesn't matter who the quarterback
I
is.
think
And
that's-
that Canada has to be fired. And that's actually being talked. That was talked about week 1, even though the Steelers won with Mitch Trubisky.
Whoa. I thought, correct me if I'm wrong. I remember from our conversations, off stream and stuff, but I thought the Steelers would be a great situation for Mitch Trubisky, right?
They
to
would.
really reemerge and
They
be a
would.
quality starting quarterback in this
Yes.
league. Oh, now it's the coaching's fault. Now it's the coaching's fault. I like how you work, John. Okay.
It's the Nagy
It is
logic.
the
It's
coach's
the Matt
fault.
Nagy.
You know what?
Okay.
This kid has been screwed everywhere he's gone. I don't understand
Not the former
why
coach.
it works that way. You know what? Hey, 2018 and 2020, that's 2 playoff appearances under his belt. And by the way, for everybody who wants to say Mitch Trubisky's a bust, I give you this stat. Who's the highest rated passer in all of Chicago Bears history? I'll tell you what, Justin Fields is the worst rated passer in football right now. In football, not just in Bears, in the NFL in 2022. Justin Fields is the worst rated passer,
John.
yet he's amazing. But I will say, Mitch Trubisky, number 1 all time in Bears history in passer rating. Two playoff appearances, 1 Pro Bowl. And you know what? At the end of the day, he was more than a serviceable quarterback. I will always maintain that with the right players around him in the right situation, he's the 15th to
Like in
18th
Pittsburgh.
best quarterback in football. And you know what? Fine by me. Similar-ish to an Alex Smith, to a Jimmy Garoppolo. And I like both those quarterbacks. I know, and now I brought up Alex Smith's name, and everybody on the stream is going to get pissed
Brought
off
up Jimmy
out there in
G's name
DC.
too.
But I'll tell you what, Alex Smith was a very, very good quarterback who put up a lot of good seasons in San Francisco, contrary to popular opinion, and outside of San Francisco. Last time I remember, what are they now? The Commanders, The Commanders were, 5-3, leading the division when Alex Smith got hurt? Exactly. I rest my case.
Again,
Those comments. I'm looking right now. Oh, nothing yet.
couple of rebuttals. First and foremost, saying Mitch Trubisky has the highest passer rating in Chicago Bears history, I think that's what you said, is
He
like
does.
saying Carson Wentz is the best quarterback Washington has had since Kirk Cousins. Doesn't mean anything, John. It doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
It doesn't mean anything. And if it means something, it says more about the organization, the Chicago Bears organization,
That's
and
true.
their plights at the quarterback position than one Mitch Trubisky. But having said that, Alex Smith, don't get me, John. You guys know my thoughts on Alex Smith. I mean, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
I will say this, and not many people know this because we weren't as digital when we were freshmen in college. If you remember, and I know you know what I'm about to say, you loved Mitch Trubisky and I hated him.
Yes.
I said he was a bust. Actually, what the hell's wrong with
remember.
me? I said he was a bust, and you told me, you said, be patient, stop calling him a bust on the radio because he's not a bust yet. You said that to me. So it's pretty funny how the tables turn in a matter of a couple of years,
Yeah. I mean, if the angle here is to say, oh, Nati, what happened to you? I mean, what happened to you, John? It happens.
That's
it
no
happens.
angle. There's no angle there. I just think it's ironic and it's actually hilarious because for those who don't know, I would crap on Trubisky on my college radio show every single week.
12
But
and
see,
4 seasons.
I was in so much promiscuity. Nobody knew who I was, right? I was just like, nobody knew who I was yet. Wasn't a big deal yet. But now, now that I have more of a public presence, it's like, oh, you're a big Mitch guy. Well, I wasn't always. Not that you know that, Paul. You know it too. Pretty funny.
I remember the moment. I remember the moment you became a Mitch Trubisky guy. It was during the Eagles playoff game. You said, if he leads this drive, if he leads this team to a victory right now, I'll never say anything bad about him again. And he did. He
should have.
And
Yeah.
Should have. Yep, exactly. But anyway, this is not a Mitch Trubisky game. It's a Justin Fields and Carson Wentz game. How about that matchup, huh, Nati? Carson Wentz and Justin Fields. Can we talk about Carson Wentz? I don't want to go off
Go ahead.
a little bit.
No,
But,
go ahead.
I find this whole situation just puzzling. So I've always been a Carson Wentz guy. Always. Because he doesn't turn the ball over too much historically. This year it's a little bit higher than usual. Every year to 91.
Surprise.
I am surprised.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
I'm not
I'm
surprised.
pretty surprised because last year I'll take 21 touchdowns and 7 picks and, you know, an okay record with the Colts. See, it's so funny how the Colts and everybody ran them out of town, and now they have Matt Ryan throwing like 800 picks a game. I think Carson Wentz is still a quality quarterback. That said, these turnover issues, I mean, you know, they're going to kill him, and they have been killing him all year. But I still like Carson Wentz. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. He's had a lot of good years in the NFL that people don't want to talk about. And yes, he has. Look up those numbers, brother. Look up those numbers. Hey, let's take a look. I got the numbers right in front of me. Carson Wentz.
Go ahead and say the 2017 stats.
2017, 2018, 2019, and 2021. All those years are years in which he posted a 90-plus passer rating. 2017 and 2018, it was above 100. I'll tell you what, those are outstanding numbers. Besides his rookie year and 2020, every other season that he's put up is quality. You can't argue with that. I would take that all day if I were a Bears fan, right? And I'm looking for a quarterback. I would take those numbers from Justin Fields today. If Justin Fields put up 27 touchdowns and 7 picks like Carson Wentz did a year ago, everybody in Chicago would say, what a success Justin Fields is. If because it's Carson Wentz, because he's hopping from team to team, because Philadelphia ran him out of town and the Colts did the same, everybody hates Carson Wentz.
We might do the same as well.
I agree. I know you guys will eventually. Got Howell waiting in the back. But my point being, he puts up good numbers, but for some reason, there's just never a good word to say about him. I don't get it.
I know exactly what's going on. I came on the show when Carson Wentz signed, and I said it's an iffy pick because Carson Wentz, he could give you explosive plays, but he could also do some really dumb things, right? So it's a roll of the dice. And listen to this. Carson Wentz is 5th in passing yards and 5th in touchdowns so far this season, which is a surprising stat. It sounds really good. He's also 3rd in interceptions, and he's been sacked the 3rd most times. So I think that just shows you what you're getting with Carson Wentz, right? He's going to put up the yards, but he's going to throw picks. He's going to, hold on to the ball too long, get sacked, and lose the game. So I think that so far the stats are sort of proving me right in that regard. I'm happy about that take.
I will say 278 yards per game is pretty good, though. Now, I'm not trying to justify Carson Wentz, but I'll tell you what, again, Bears fans, Justin Fields fans, I ask all of you to match that. Justin Fields can't even get 200 yards in a game if he's lucky. He had the lowest prop for a single game in passing yards in betting history a couple of weeks ago. All I'm saying is I'll take 278 yards from any quarterback any time in a game. If you're a Bears fan, that's how quarterback hungry we all are, I guess. I guess that speaks to the mediocrity of the position in Bears history. But, hey, 278 yards a game average, that's actually Wentz's 2nd best game average of his entire career right now. So he, in some respects, he's playing very bad, but in other respects, historically, he's the best he's ever been. I guess that says a lot about Carson Wentz.
He's replaceable. Carson Wentz is replaceable. He's not trash. Not trash. We've seen some trash here in DC, especially. He's not great. I wouldn't even say he's good. He does some decent things. I think Paul's assessment, which matched my assessment when we first acquired him in March, is spot on. He'll give you some great moments like we had against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Steven Doe in the chat. He already knows. Yeah, some great moments. But the bad with Carson Wentz since 2020 has always outweighed the good. And we've seen a lot of that in DC. I cannot tell you that end of game sequence last week. That end of game sequence that he had, where he almost threw 2 picks before he eventually threw the 3rd pick. Like, you could see it coming. Like, from a mile away. That was inexcusable. He did do a good job of driving the team down the field, right, to get us in scoring position. That's inexcusable, especially after the fact that he was inconsistent for a large part of that game. He's been inconsistent for many of the games even before last week. And, we could have beat the Titans. We could have been 2-3, just like you guys. And this game could have meant a little bit more. But, I mean, John, for a guy that loves to talk about wins for quarterbacks, right? Whenever you refer to an Alex Smith, I mean, Carson Wentz is 1-4 this season. Are we going to talk about that?
Well, his career record's 45, 44, and 1. So,
John, you know why it's that high? Because it's inflated from 2017, which people keep bringing up even in this fan base.
I'll take it. I'll still take. Hey, you know what? Kirk Cousins is historically a 500 quarterback, and Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback right now in the NFL. Tells you something.
Look, you guys know, might have remembered, I'm not high on Kirk Cousins either, but like I would still take Kirk Cousins over Carson Wentz. Like,
I agree.
I think that tells you all you need to know about my thoughts. But yeah, I mean, yeah, we were gonna get to it later in the show, but I mean, in terms of the edge at the quarterback position, even with my criticism of Carson Wentz in this game, I still got to go with Wentz. I still got to be on the Wentz train for at least tonight. I don't know, Paul. I know you have your criticisms as well.
I think Fields might face a little more pressure than he did in the Vikings game. And if he doesn't start out hot, he did not start out hot against the Vikings. He was underthrowing passes. I think if he doesn't, continue this role from the end of last week, I think it could go downhill really fast. But it's going to be a low-scoring game, a fun game.
I think the thing that we have to worry about too, as Bears fans or Bears people watching this game, is the Bears really cannot lose this game. Now, let me explain. This isn't a matter of, the Bears are better than the Commanders, although they are. What really matters here is if the Bears lose in prime time and Justin Fields regresses, or if Justin Fields is the reason why they lost, or if he plays like the first 4 weeks of the season, that's a pretty scathing indictment on Justin Fields. You're not facing a good defense. Your opposition is Carson freaking Wentz. This should be a game you win.
Whoa. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you do that.
That's true.
Why did you say it like that? Just after praising this man, it's Carson Wentz, like 30 seconds ago. Now you're saying Carson Wentz's name as if, he isn't all that. John, what's going on?
Yes, you're
confused?
Right. And listen to this. And here's why I say that, okay? Because Bears fans and people, everybody hates Carson Wentz. And Bears fans, if I went and told Bears fans today and said, who would you rather have, Carson Wentz or Justin Fields? Everybody would blast me for even asking the question, then would say Justin Fields emphatically. Well, if you love Justin Fields, and if he's such a great quarterback, then he better be beating Carson Wentz and the freaking Washington Commanders on Thursday Night Football. If Justin Fields can't win this game, that's really not good. I don't care what anybody says. That is not a good look for Fields. It's not a good look for this Bears team. It's not a good look for his development and whether or not he is the guy for the Bears. See, a lot of people have already just anointed him the guy. No, you got to earn being the guy. You got to earn it. You got to show that you really are going to be a franchise QB. And if you don't beat Carson Wentz and the Commanders, we go back to the same question. Last week I said, you know what? I can see a path in which he would be the guy, right? 118.8 passer rating, great game. I loved it. Best game of his career. But then if you regress and go back to a point where you're struggling, where, 50% completion percentage and you lose to the Commanders, we're right back to where we were. And the same question is going to be asked, and rightfully so, is Justin Fields the guy for the Bears? You got to win this game tonight. Plain and simple, you got to win.
And if you're Justin Fields, you have to beat the bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
We play the Lions twice a year. If you're the Bears, those are 2 free wins. For Mitch Trubisky, those were 2 free wins every season.
Yep.
So if you're Justin Fields, the standard has to be, I have to beat the bad teams.
The standard has to be, he should be just as good as Mitch Trubisky, if not better. Because I'll tell you what, if everybody ran Mitch Trubisky out of town, then what are we going to do about Justin Fields when he does worse or better, right? So the standard should be, the blueprint model should be, I should be able to match Mitch Trubisky's production. Anything above is amazing. That means he's leaps and bounds better. But anything below, again, you have to start asking the tough questions that people don't want to hear, which is he the guy?
Fair. Okay, I feel like the people out there have had enough of our quarterback discussion. Although people know that I'm right on, Paul and I are right on Carson Wentz. And but with that being said, we got to talk about the other matchups, pivotal matchups within the big matchup, right, between the Commanders and the Bears this evening. And I do want to actually get your thoughts on who has the coaching edge. Who has the coaching edge in this matchup with everything going on with Ron Rivera and him? I kind of think rightfully so, but at the end of the day, you shouldn't be doing that if you're the head coach. But what he said was factually correct. Throwing his quarterback under the bus, right? Matt Eberflus, first season, as the Chicago Bears head coach. He was the defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, who will be playing a couple of weeks from now. But what are your guys' thoughts on the head coaching and just general coaching matchup? And we'll start with John.
Yeah. What Ron Rivera did, in my opinion, was inexcusable. And I love Ron Rivera. I'm a huge fan of Ron Rivera. No, yeah, it is, dude, because you know what? At the end of the day, you cannot be saying that sort of stuff publicly. I mean, Matt Nagy blew off Mitch Trubisky after 2020, right? And it is proven that Matt Nagy technically did sabotage Mitch Trubisky and helped to lead a crowd to run him out of town. You cannot be doing that to your quarterback. He's the leader of your franchise. I don't care if Carson Wentz isn't, quote unquote, getting it done. Not every team has every quarterback getting it done, and they still win games. So it's why don't you take a look on the inside, Ron Rivera, and say, how can I be a better coach? Or what other parts of my team are not working? And the answer is all of them, really. So it's not necessarily just the quarterback. If that were the case, then you know what? Ron Rivera should be fired. It's just the head coach. They're 1-4, fire Ron Rivera. And I've heard chants about that already, that there could be speculation that if they lose tonight or if they lose a couple of more times in these next few weeks, that he might end up getting fired even before the season ends. I'd be surprised, but it's certainly possible at this point. So, it's just, I would say the Bears have an edge because Matt Eberflus is a rookie head coach. You have a better record. You have more room to grow. Right now, it seems as if the Commanders are kind of stunted. And with Ron Rivera coming out and saying that, I mean, I'm telling you, I know it may not seem like a big deal to a lot of Commanders fans because there's no trust in Carson Wentz, but coming out and saying that in week 6 of the season is just not a good omen for the rest of the year. Not a good omen for this team. Not a good omen for Wentz's job and for Rivera's job. See, Rivera just thought he was trying to speak truth and tickle everybody's ears. But at the end of the day, now that puts a referendum on Rivera's head too. When are you going to make the change to a new quarterback? Will you make the change? Is that going to save your job or not? Will you still get fired? See, he didn't expect, and because probably nobody in Washington, like here in Chicago, has the balls to ask those questions. If I were at a press conference, I'd say, okay, Ron, let's flip it back to you. What are you doing wrong? Are you going to be fired? Should you be benched? And that's not going to happen. No one's going to ask those questions, but they're warranted based on his statement.
Now, I will say, in Ron Rivera's defense, Ron Rivera's been around the league for a long time.
Oh, yeah. I love Ron
and
Rivera.
He's a trusted coach.
Mm-hmm.
He has a lot of legacy in the league. People tend to like him. He's a positive rep. Those comments, I believe, are also inexcusable. But do you think there's any chance at all, he was trying to fire up Carson Wentz for this game in prime time? Is that at all a possibility? Because I'd like to give Ron Rivera the benefit of the doubt in the situation, given his standing in the league. So, I don't know. Do you think that could be possible, John?
I guess it could be. I just didn't take it. It didn't sound like that on the tone. Like, we all saw the press conference and the sound bite.
Well, did you guys watch the whole like part of that press conference? Like his whole point, I should say.
Yeah, I know he explained it, the clip, it was cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he was, and if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, that's fine. I like Ron Rivera. I always have. I mean, he should have been the Bears head coach X amount of years ago before Lovie Smith fired him because he was a threat to Lovie Smith. So I like Ron Rivera, but I don't like that comment at all. It reeks of Matt Nagyism, and I hate Matt Nagy. So, got to be careful with what you're saying there, Ron Rivera. And be careful about sticking up for your QB no matter what, right? And stick up for your team. You're the head coach. Hey, at the end of the day, it's his decision to play Carson Wentz, right? He could bench Carson Wentz tomorrow. If Carson Wentz is such a big problem and you want to blast him in front of the national media, then why not actually do something about it instead of just talking? Why don't you walk your talk instead of just sit there and speaking out and bashing the quarterback for really, no apparent reason. There are other parts of your team that aren't performing either.
So,
although the full statement was, the problem is quarterback because we need more time to keep things going, right?
Yeah.
Because Carson Wentz needs more time.
Sure.
So, I think in that context, it's hard to say that he's really trashing Carson Wentz. He's not necessarily saying that Carson Wentz is the problem.
Sure.
And also, I don't think that begs the question, will you bench Carson Wentz? I think it's the opposite. He's saying Carson Wentz needs to play. He needs to get more reps in with this team. He needs to get comfortable. He needs to stop throwing interceptions.
So a couple points here. With Ron Rivera, so in terms of the statement, I did watch that press conference. We're all busy. I get it. I watched it, okay? And I think what he was trying to say was essentially what Paul was trying to get at. And it was more so stability at the quarterback position is the phrase that he was looking for. He mentioned, and it kind of makes sense too when you look at the question that was asked, which is why are we not where the other teams in the NFC East are, right? And for him to just say like quarterback, or for him to really mean just quarterback, that wouldn't make sense, right? Because the Giants have Daniel Jones, the Cowboys have a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush, who is undefeated as a starter. But I think what he really meant was just stability in terms of the quarterback and the scheme. And that was the point that he was going with. Yes, it was poorly worded, of course. Everybody, the media love to take sound bites and just, clip it and run with it. I mean, I love Pat McAfee, but like, I mean, he made a whole segment about it, and it blew up. So I get it. I do. But, and also there's another point that we're not even considering. This is, I think, worse than Matt Nagy throwing Trubisky or Libisky under the bus, because Rivera brought Wentz over to Washington. Right. He hinged like his entire 2022-2023 season on one Carson Wentz, right? But I will say there are reports today that the move was a Dan Snyder move, right? Was a Dan Snyder, let's try to fix the quarterback position type of move, which we've had here in the past, a la RG3, drafting him in 2012, moving up in the draft and getting him in 2012, trading up our entire franchise, basically, our boatload of picks for one RG3 in 2012. So I get it, the way you said it, and the context is not great. All I was saying, I'm not saying it's a great look at all, guys. I just want to be clear. All I'm saying is, in my opinion, even if he meant like our quarterback position is not great right now, if he didn't even like look at the rest of the NFC East and just blanket statement, our quarterback position is not where we want it to be right now, I think that's factually correct. You threw out the stats. Guys, I cannot tell you at the end of games. Well, first off, Carson Wentz is not even consistent in the first half of games, right? I mean, do we want to talk about how we were down 22-0 against the a couple of weeks ago? Do we want to talk about how, like, I think that was against the Detroit Lions. Do we want to talk about how even against the Jaguars he showed some inconsistencies before ultimately prevailing in the end? Or even, just the last couple of weeks. He's been very inconsistent, right? And we need more out of him. I think we might get more out of him tonight. But, yeah, that's just my roundabout way of saying Rivera, what he said, the way he said it was wrong. But I don't necessarily agree with or disagree with the premise that Carson Wentz is not really it right now at the quarterback position for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And if Carson Wentz has a great game, everyone's going to forget. Everyone's going to say Rivera fired him up.
That's true.
That's how it goes.
Exactly. And Stephen Doe in the chat, does the Bears head coach engage in a B-boy stance? Bad boy, I think, stance like Ron? I don't know. He did. I think he's talking about during the press conference where he folded his legs and like, I don't know. It was all, yeah. But I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that.
I got nothing to say on that. I will say I think B-boy means something else, Nati. Might be a swear word. I don't know. I could be wrong too. Maybe I'm misinterpreting it.
No, I think you interpreted the right way, actually. Okay. My bad. I interpreted the wrong way. But I mean, I kind of want to get to this comment here. Sorry for it being a little late, but Zach Gill went 6-0 on Thursday Night Football and 3-0 versus Chicago Bears. #HTTR.
Yep.
I know John is going to run with this. Go ahead.
Bears can't lose this game, though. And that's a very valid stat to make because it's true. Wentz, for some reason, I have no idea what player would even want to play on Thursday night, but I guess Wentz loves it. So Wentz wins on Thursday night, and Wentz does beat the Bears historically. You can't lose tonight's game, and there is no exception for it, in my opinion. This is every week, okay? So maybe we're putting too much emphasis on this game. I want to make this clear. Every week is a referendum on Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, and Justin Fields. And that's a fact. Every week's a referendum. Every week is, are they getting better? Is there any progress? Or are they stagnating and getting worse? And should there be calls to, hey, we got to buck up here? Or maybe there needs to be a change at the end of the season, at least with Fields, first and foremost, before you get to the head coach and GM. I mean, they didn't draft Fields, so they have no loyalty to him whatsoever. Every week's a referendum. So in a game like this tonight, when you're on prime time, and you're facing the freaking Commanders, and everybody wants to say Justin Fields is the guy, then be the guy. Freaking win the game. And if you have troubles winning, or if you're the reason why you lose the game, see, I can already tell what the narrative's going to be. I can already imagine what's going to be written tomorrow in the newspaper. It's either going to be Justin Fields won the game, building off of last week's performance, huge game, can't wait to see the future. He's the guy. Or it's going to be the Bears lost. Justin Fields threw a pick at the end of the game to lose the game. But hey, don't worry. All progress isn't linear. And I'm going to say to that, that's bull crap. So again, we have to understand and think about a week-by-week basis as Bears fans that each game's a referendum. Each game we are evaluating. There's no feelings involved. It's, is he the guy or not? Because if he's not, got to nip that in the bud immediately. That way you can plan your next move and look to your next quarterback.
And that comment by Zach is interesting. And John, you said, why does Carson Wentz like Thursday night games? He's crazy, because everyone gets hurt on Thursday nights.
Right.
Everyone's injured. Everyone's tired from the previous week. I wonder if he benefits from that, his inconsistency, right? If you have guys coming in out of the secondary, maybe not, not as ready to go get those picks that he's going to throw them, 2 or 3 times a game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't disagree there. I do want to ask you guys though. So I just mentioned Dan Snyder. I mean, that was probably the biggest piece of NFL news that broke earlier today. The ESPN report that stated that Snyder had a lot of dirt on Roger Goodell and the other owners in the league, and that's pretty much stopping a forced removal of Dan Snyder from ownership of the Washington Commanders, a move that I'm telling you, there will be a parade in the streets of Washington, D.C. if it ever happens. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that? This is obviously it's most important with this franchise, but I mean, it's affecting, other franchises in the league as well.
Now, can you explain to me, if you're trying to blackmail someone, if you're saying I have dirt on the NFL, why are you doing this publicly?
Well, it was a private comment. I think it was a private comment. Yeah.
I see. But why? It doesn't, I never understand how this blackmailing works. Because if he truly has dirt and information, then why is he even concerned about being fired? Why is he even talking to people about this? It seems to me like, and I hate to use this analogy, it's almost like a political move. It's like, if I say something, it gets leaked to the media, are they going to believe me? And then now fans are asking, what dirt does he have? What was going on with that John Gruden situation that's not going on with with Snyder? And that's what everyone's going to be saying, and they're not going to be talking about what he actually did, the actual allegations of what was going on underneath him. So and it seems like a desperation move, and I don't really understand.
I would agree to an extent. Here's what I will say. I don't doubt fully that he may have some sort of dirt. And the reason I say that is this. Robert Kraft did get indicted for prostitution, right? Like there are a lot of owners who have probably not done good things at all. And I'm sure if you dug hard enough, you could find something on a lot of them, some of them, all of them. I don't know. But based on just that from Robert Kraft, you'd have to wonder, well, who else could be involved here? What else is going on, right? I think it was a desperation move, and I think it was leaked to the media potentially on purpose. I mean, I would say so. Why wouldn't it be? I would like to know what happened with those John Gruden stuff, and I'm happy you brought that up. Gruden right now is actually suing. So I don't know if you guys know that. They're actually in court right now about lost wages, and I don't know. I don't want to quote anything, but I last time I checked, I think they might be paying out some of the lost wages he had from the Raiders for being fired. Now, what does that mean? Well, if they're going to pay it out, that means that he wasn't fully in the wrong, which I know he said what he said, but also there are other things that they're trying to probably keep quiet. And they want Gruden to shut up by paying him some money and saying, oh, here's your earnings, be quiet, don't talk about the other context of all these emails. I think everybody in some capacity may have blood on their hands. That said, we know for a fact Dan Snyder does. That's already been documented. So if this owner in sports and making this move, it's like, well, there's some desperation, but there could be a little bit of truth to it. And I'm curious to see if he releases anything or if anything comes of it or if he's going to be voted out. We're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah. And I think there was also a report earlier in the week from the local media here that Snyder is trying to put a lot of the blame on Bruce Allen, who I affectionately have called and will continue to call Brucifer, who is the general manager here in D.C., for I think a good decade, and there's a lot of fire, Bruce. I mean, even our first and second year of college, I was on that train, fire Bruce Allen, and it eventually happened. But what I heard was that Dan Snyder and Bruce Allen were very close for that decade. And then, things started to turn very, very sour even before the firing. So, and Bruce Allen is obviously the guy that's being connected to John Gruden, right? He's the other person on the other side of the emails that John Gruden was sending. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of dirt there. And like I said, while John was talking, Dan Snyder is the worst owner in sports. You cannot come at me with another owner. I know James Dolan is going to be the one. I'm in New York. He's going to be the one that's thrown out there. But if we're talking about off the court, on the court, trying to take money back from fans who were requesting refunds at the start of COVID, trying to cover sexual harassment allegations within the organization for years and years, 25 plus years of losing, being the embarrassment of the league. You can say whatever you want about the name. I've said my thoughts and stuff, but like that whole fiasco, I mean, Dan Snyder is responsible for all of it. He's the worst owner in all of sports, and we can have a debate here if you guys want, but I mean, I think the case is closed on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So, with that being said about Dan Snyder and his ownership, I want to ask you guys a couple more Bears Commanders related questions. What's going on with Darnell Mooney? I correct me if I'm wrong. On Twitter this offseason, there were a lot of people. I'm not saying you guys.
Yeah.
There were some Bears fans, some crazy Bears fans, who were saying, "Oh, they were putting up Darnell Mooney stats, putting up Terry McLaurin stats. What's the difference? They're the same type of player. What's going on?" Paul.
I've never been on the Darnell Mooney train, right? And granted, of course, that catch last game, the one-handed grab, is going to stick in people's heads, and that's what they're going to remember, right? They're not going to remember how he actually plays in that. Even in the Vikings game, he didn't seem like the main target that Justin Fields is looking for. So I'm not sure what's going on with fans on Twitter. I can't speak for other Bears fans, right? Obviously, Terry's a lot better. We'll see what his future holds with this amazing team, this amazing franchise of yours.
Yeah. David Montgomery had more yards last game than Darnell Mooney, despite the catch. And I'll tell you what, if Mooney didn't make that catch, how many yards would he have had? Like 10, right? 15. So here's the thing. So many Bears fans are just so, I think, starved for a number one wide receiver and then delusional, which I can't stand delusional Bears fans, but you see them all the time.
Oh, like your Mitch Trubisky take?
That's not delusion. That's based on fact. There's a difference. There's a difference there. Darnell Mooney has no reason to say that he's a number one wide receiver, and fans have no reason to say that he's a number one wide receiver and his comp is Terry McLaurin. That is ridiculous. You're putting Darnell Mooney on a pedestal of a top 20 wide receiver in football, maybe even top 10, right? And Darnell Mooney isn't even close. I said from the very beginning, he is the best number two wide receiver, one of the best number two wide receivers in football. If you want to put him out as a number one on the Bears because they're so weak and their receiving core is so crappy, then you could do that. But on any other team, Darnell Mooney is a number two wide receiver. There is no other team he would go to right now where he would be the considerable, undisputed number one wide receiver. So the comparison to Terry McLaurin, it's just stupidity. And it's people twisting numbers for a certain reason, just like everybody's saying today, hey, Josh Allen threw his first X amount of games and Justin Fields threw his X amount of games. They're the same. Well, so what's that supposed to mean? That Justin Fields is going to become Josh Allen? I don't care what anybody says. Justin Fields will never be Josh Allen. Never. He will never do it. I'm telling you right now, there is no way. So we have to evaluate these players with context and with proper critique. Darnell Mooney is a number two wide receiver. And this year, he's nowhere to be found. Now, there are a lot of reasons. The Bears aren't passing the ball as much, partially because of Luke Getsy, partially because of Justin Fields is just running instead of not staying in the pocket and throwing. Secondly, the Bears' offense stinks. And then thirdly, Darnell Mooney's not getting open. Can't throw you the ball if you're not open. That's a you problem again. So, I don't know. I get frustrated because there were so many people, and I could pull up all the receipts of people saying Darnell Mooney's the guy, great player. Oh, WR1, my receiver. Yeah, well, your receiver has barely 100 yards in the season, and he's actually just as much of a bust this year as Justin Fields. How do you like that? That's a pretty maybe that was a little harsh. But I'm talking about this season. I'm not talking about in the past. I'm saying, but right now, we should be seeing much more from Darnell Mooney too, and we're not. And that,
And
that's a
listen,
tough pill to swallow.
with Scary Terry last season, we all know who was throwing to him, and he was still catching the ball. So if it really is the case that Darnell Mooney, his comp is Scary Terry, why is Justin Fields not throwing the ball, right? We can't have both things, right? Darnell Mooney's not a number one wide receiver, and it also can't be the case that Justin Fields, is a flourishing quarterback in this league.
And the differentiator is too, and you brought up a great point, Paul. Good wide receivers don't have to depend on a quarterback for yards. They just get open and score, and they get open and get yards. Mike Evans has 8 straight years of 1,000 yards. His first 8 years of the league's all 1,000 yards. Who was he catching balls from? Well, I mean, in the beginning.
It's okay. I mean, obviously Brady the last couple of years, but I mean, Jameis Winston, he was a pretty good passer. Like, I'm not saying obviously he threw 30 picks in a season. Yeah, he's a good passer, John. Like,
he's a good passer, but he's not an elite quarterback. And every year, Evans still put up the numbers. It didn't matter who was passing. And if you want to say that Darnell Mooney's like Terry McLaurin, then Darnell Mooney should be putting up numbers no matter who's throwing the football, right? I said that all the time about Allen Robinson. And I know he's not having the best year right now, but in Chicago with the tripartite government, how about tripartite quarterback system of Trubisky and Dalton and Foles and all these scrubs, Chase Daniel, not Trubisky, the other two.
No, John. No. You didn't have to say that.
We're throwing to Allen Robinson, and Allen Robinson put up 1,000 yards. Now, that's a reflection of Robinson. That's why he got paid, and that's why the Bears, I think, should have kept him in some sort of capacity. But nevertheless, the point is, in his case, didn't matter who the quarterback was, caught passes, gained yards. Darnell Mooney's case, he's a novice, okay? He is not catching anything. And, where's my quarterback? I need a quarterback. Well, then you're not a true wide receiver. Be better. Get open. Make plays. It's not anybody else's fault but yours for that. If you want to be Terry McLaurin-esque, or if you want to be a great wide receiver, and get open and make plays and stop complaining. That's not to Mooney. That's all his supporters and his fans. There's so many fans for Darnell Mooney. I never understood the fixation with him. When, this guy needed the 17th game to get to 1,000 yards last year. Darnell Mooney is a serviceable number 2 wide receiver. He's not a number 1, and I don't know if he ever will be. Harsh truth.
All those fans for Mooney.
Yep.
That's how I feel about Labisky. The same quarterback. Yep. The same quarterback that put up 17 touchdowns and 10 picks in 2019. Barely over 3,000 passing yards, 2,000 passing yards, 16 touchdowns and 8 picks in 2020.
Well,
his best season. I'm just saying. And that Allen Robinson take, John.
Sure.
Woo! Right now with the LA Rams, Allen Robinson isn't even an above average.
I know.
I think he's lost 10 steps.
I don't get it. I don't know why. I'm stunned. I really am stunned. I'll admit I was wrong in that, but I'm stunned because he had done that for so many years here in Chicago. So I don't understand why he goes to Matt Stafford and he's just not doing anything. I am literally shocked by that. I can't explain it.
Yep. But with that being said, I do want to get to a matchup that we haven't really talked about a lot. We've talked about Carson Wentz, talked about Justin Fields, talked about how, the Bears offense could do some things against the Commanders defense. But how about the Commanders offense overall against the Bears defense? Who do you guys think has the edge in this one? With the Commanders, of course, Jahan Dotson is out this week. He is a rookie receiver that we got with round pick 16 in round 1, and he was a guy that I've been eye on throughout the offseason. As low as I've been on Carson Wentz since we got him on March 9th, I've been high on Jahan Dotson even more. I think, he showed some good things. I think he had 4 touchdowns through the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season, which I think actually was the NFL lead or was tied for a league at one point. So it sucks that we're going to lose him, but we do have Curtis Samuel. Obviously have Scary Terry, Brian Robinson, starting running back. I want to get your guys' thoughts on that as well. And we have a good stable of tight ends. Our offensive line is trash, but what are you guys' thoughts? You got the Bears defense as well. Commanders offense versus Bears defense. Who has the edge, John?
I think this will be an interesting game. I think Carson Wentz, right? We've seen that he could put up the yards, right? He can throw big passes. He can score touchdowns. I think the question is, can the Commanders establish the run? Because in the last game against the Vikings, when they sort of, ran their game-winning drive, It was
Yeah.
because they established the run. And the Bears did not do a great job of stopping that late in the game. So I think that'll be the question of the game is if the Commanders can establish the run, I think the offense will be great. If not, I think, you'll have some troubles if you have to rely on Carson Wentz.
I think the biggest problem is going to be the Bears' run defense is so poor. So if you have a situation where Robinson gets a lot of carries and he's able to gain yards, then in that case, that's going to be not the Niners. Wow, the Commanders. It's going to be the Commanders' advantage. I don't know why I'm thinking Niners. Jimmy G's still on my head. Still imagining him in a Bears uniform. What would be? Anyway,
better than Mitch Trubisky. We're gonna keep going back to that, Joe.
I'll give you that. But anyway, yeah, I think it's going to be a situation where we have to find out the run to pass balance for the Commanders because that's going to determine who has the edge. If they're going to be running the football more, they're actually going to have the edge over the Bears defense. But if they're going to be passing, and if Wentz is going to be passing, expect a couple of interceptions and expect a way for the Bears to get some short field position for Justin Fields on the other end when they pick off Wentz and then Fields could score. So I mean, if I were the Commanders tonight, I'd be running that football more often than passing and let Wentz be a game manager because you know the liability that comes with Wentz and you also know the Bears' issues on defending the run.
Let Brian Robinson eat, man. I mean, this is the same guy who, and again, I do want to get you guys' thoughts on this, but I mean, just 6 weeks ago, we got shot in DC. Yeah. And he returned last week, didn't do too much, but I mean, why should we expect him to do too much in his not only his first game of action since the incident, but his first game of action in the NFL, period, right? He is a rookie running back. We drafted him in the 3rd round, a couple picks before entering the 4th round in this year's draft. Alabama Roll Tide. But I agree with you, John. I think we have to run him into the ground pretty much with this team, just the way it's constructed right now. We don't have a Jahan Dotson. We have a Curtis Samuel, Scary Terry, but preferably I would like us to run the ball more, especially more than we have in the last couple of weeks. And I think the Commanders offense can do some good things against this Bears defense. This is not the Bears defense of our freshman year, John. Paul, your sophomore year of college. This is not that Bears defense anymore. This is a Bears defense that definitely can get got. And hopefully the Commanders can do that, at least hopefully on my side. But I will say this. A sneaky matchup, just position-ish matchup in this game is the Commanders' rush defense versus the Chicago Bears running backs. Because I'll say this. You guys probably saw the stats from last week. Derrick Henry went over 100 yards. But this Commanders' rush defense is actually surprising me a bit in terms of how good they've been for the better part of the season. Even last week, Derrick Henry only had 3.7 yards per carry. The Titans, we all know Derrick Henry is their entire offense, so they were running him into the ground, and I feel like that's a big reason why he did the type of things that he did on top of him just being Derrick Henry. But I mean, our rush defense hasn't been too shabby, even with the loss of Fedarian Mathis, who's another rookie who's supposed to be a good presence on that defensive line as a run stuffer. And I know the Bears offense right now is pretty much revolving around your guys' running backs. I mean, you can use this time to talk about your running backs. You can use this time to talk about that matchup. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
You think they'll be able to contain Justin Fields too, to stop the run and contain Justin Fields? Because we know he likes to run the ball a lot. So I think those are two things they'll have to, balance out as well.
Yeah, Fields has more rushing yards right now than David Montgomery. Talk about a stunner there. Khalil Herbert, by the way, 5.9 yards per attempt. I'll tell you what, the Bears don't need to extend David Montgomery. And I'm just being frank. I mean, if you have Herbert is going to be averaging 5.9 yards per carry, or at least 5 for the rest of the season, you have your new heir apparent at the running back position. I think for the Commanders, you got to contain Herbert. I don't know how much Montgomery's going to play. I don't know how they're going to split things up. I know he's going to be back, so we'll have to see about that. And then, Justin Fields has 200 rushing yards quietly. Despite all the struggles that he's encountered, he's averaging 4.6 per carry. So that's going to be an issue. And, at this point, he'd be on pace for like 700 yards in the ground, which is very respectable for a quarterback.
But, again, John, I keep my receipts. I thought rushing yards don't matter for quarterbacks. I remember conversations about Lamar Jackson.
Not many rushing touchdowns. He doesn't have many rushing touchdowns. Right. That's the difference with Lamar Jackson.
And, hey, I like Lamar Jackson, but that year it should have been Russell Wilson's MVP. That's the difference. And that was that year, okay?
Let's not be talking about Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson now. I don't know who the hell that is out there,
Oh my god.
He's getting exposed, John. That's who that is. He's getting
Who's
exposed.
their backup over there? Put him in.
You must be talking about a
Trade
different
for
Russell
Mitch.
Wilson.
Ripon.
That was a joke.
I think Ripon is actually their backup. The son of, I think it was son or nephew of the Super Bowl winning quarterback here. And I use Super Bowl winning quarterback very loosely because he wasn't carrying us to a W on that playoff run.
A Super Bowl winning quarterback, so there you go.
Yep. Okay, so I think we've got through much of the matchup. Oh, really quickly, thoughts on Brian Robinson, guys, his return and everything. I mean, the many men. I don't know if you guys saw that, the clip of 50 Cent's track. I don't know if you care about it, but yeah.
No,
go ahead.
It's an awesome story. Yeah.
Yeah, great story, and wish him the best as a rookie. And hey, they took out Antonio Gibson for you. So hey, rookie, got a little bit of pressure on your shoulders. Hopefully you can keep up with it and perform for the rest of the season.
Yep, and true story. I was higher on Brian Robinson this offseason. Antonio Gibson.
Yep,
he was the starting running back on the depth chart as well before he got shot, obviously. But yeah, man, I hope he does some good things. Again, like last week was a wash. His first NFL game action period didn't really matter. But yeah, hopefully he does some good things this week. Although our offensive line does not open up holes, it is terrible in pass protection. I think Paul mentioned the quarterback sack stat. And there are some fans in this fan base that will blame the offensive line on everything. I think the offensive line deserves a whole lot of blame. But I think Carson Wentz has also fell into a lot of sacks like he's had the last couple of years, right? That Colts offensive line, right? It was so great until Carson Wentz was there and then became really bad. The Colts offensive line, their regression was a huge part of that, but also Carson Wentz falling into sacks. Same thing with the Eagles. I mean, their offensive line, I mean, they've added a couple of pieces. Like, it's kind of the same, right? Like, it's been kind of the same last couple of years. But all of a sudden, they're back to being one of the best in the league. So, I mean, I'm just saying, John. I'm just saying.
Hey, Justin Fields does the same thing right now, though, too. I mean, hey, the Bears' offensive line is horrible, but Justin Fields is finding himself in a lot of situations where he's just sacking himself, in essence. So that's a growing process for a quarterback. In Wentz's case, I get the point. But at the end of the day, you can't argue with me when it comes to his touchdown to interception ratio and what he's done so far in the NFL. I like Carson Wentz. Would I want him on the Bears? Right? Probably not.
I want him to be on the Bears. I want him to be on the Bears for John to see up close and personal, like I've seen the last 5 weeks. You know how the real Carson Wentz is.
I'll be cheering on a quarterback that potentially could throw for 4,000 yards in a Bears uniform and will never throw picks, unlike Justin Fields at this point. Interesting. Anyway, go
ahead. Okay. I will say, but we didn't even mention them because they were highly touted just a couple years back when the Commanders did get into the playoffs at albeit 7-9. But our defensive line, we're not with Chase Young. I don't think he's going to come back maybe until week 7, 8, 9. I really don't know. There's no real timetable there. But some names to look out for if you're a Bears fan. Jonathan Allen is my favorite player on the entire team. He was a Pro Bowler for us last year and All-Pro as well. Very good player. You guys probably know about him from Bama and also just his production thus far in the NFL. But he's a great player. Also, some other guys, Deron Payne. But last week, out of nowhere, Montez Sweat had himself a game. He's on the edge. He's on the other side of where Chase Young would be. So there's some guys there that could do some good things against this Bears offensive line. And I'm not saying the Bears defensive line might not do good things against our offensive line because that could happen too, just with the state of the O-line here in DC. But yeah, some things to look out for you guys.
Yeah, and quick question. You mentioned Chase Young. How high are you on him returning post-injury? Not high at all?
Oh, I wasn't high on him even before injury.
Yeah, I know you were saying it was a bit of a disappointment before, but I mean, what would it take for him to, have a comeback season in your eyes, and live up to the expectations?
I don't really have like stats for you, Paul, because of the fact that he's not going to be here the entire season. So it's not like I can throw out a sack and say he needs to have a sack stat and say he needs to have this many sacks over the course of a season. I also don't know when he's going to come back. There really is no timetable. This is coming from a fan that is very much in tune with this team. I don't know when he's coming back. And it could be 2 or 3 weeks. It could be next week. It could be a month. We don't know. But I just want him to force consistent pressures and get home to the quarterback because he had, listen closely, guys, he had 1.5 sacks through 9 games last season before he got hurt. 1.5 sacks through 9 games as the number 2 overall pick in the entire NFL draft, the can't-miss prospect, the generational prospect, generational talent. So I just needed to see him get home to the quarterback and accumulate some sacks and hopefully get us to some W's. But it hurts seeing him on the sidelines, just clap it up and be disappointed, actually, more than clap it up because we started 1-4 this season. But yeah, we shall see, Paul. We shall see. But with that being said, I do want to get your guys' last thoughts on this matchup, and that is your score prediction. John, who's going to win? What's going to be the final score? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I said 20-17 Bears over the Commanders in my video. If you're betting on this game, I would stay away from it. Some sports books have the Bears at +1, others at -1. So, I mean, I don't even know where to go. But I say Bears 20-17. They barely pulled it out. But again, they win, and Justin Fields wins. That's what matters moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I have Bears winning. I have 16-13. I think more field goals than touchdowns. That's something the Bears did well against the Vikings, but we'll see if they can do it consistently. We'll see if Justin Fields could actually, get some rushing touchdowns rather than just a bunch of rushing yards. So I think a lot of field goals, 16-13. Bears squeak it out. Maybe a frustrating game, a lot of field goals, but we'll see.
Yeah. Shouldn't be doing this to myself, but I have the Commanders winning 24-21. I think it's also going to be a tight game. I don't think it's going to be a super, super high scoring game, but I don't think it's going to be 13-16 like Paul. But I think, John's going to love this. I think Carson Wentz is going to have one of those plays at the end of the game, and it's going to drive us down the field, and we're going to win at the end of the game, unlike what we did last week where he threw a bonkers bad interception against the Tennessee Titans. But yeah, I have us winning 24-21. And obviously, I can see the Bears winning. See the Bears crushing us. I can see the Bears crushing us. I'll say it again. I could see the Bears crushing us. It could be a 30-0 game. We made quarterbacks look like freaking, Joe Montana in the 80s and 90s. It wouldn't surprise me if Justin Fields, this is his best game in his entire career. It wouldn't surprise me if David Montgomery goes for 200 yards. Again, none of these things will surprise me. But in terms of my prediction, I think maybe the Commanders will get over the hump and win this game and get their record to slightly better, to a 2-4 record. And I will say this. John mentioned if the Bears lose, it's not looking good for Justin Fields. I'll say this. I've already been on the fire Ron Rivera train. But if the Commanders lose this game, it's a done deal for me. It's not going to be a done deal for this franchise because they're going to keep saying, Ron Rivera carried us through the years where, the name changes and everything happening off the field. He's a great leader of men. We should keep him. That's, I think, what the ownership and the front office is thinking right now, because you guys don't necessarily know this because you're more of the national people. But like for people who've been very in tune with this organization, we know Ron Rivera, he hasn't just been a head coach here. He's done a lot of the de facto front office stuff. He's managed a lot of the name change stuff. They had Ron Rivera out there at the podium a couple of weeks ago announcing their new partnership for their organization, right? And off the field, a completely off the field matter. So I think just because of that, they're not going to fire him. Even if they do go 1-5, 1-6, I think it's going to have to be, I don't know, a 1 or maybe 2 or 3 win season for them to fire him. And I hate to say it because I want them to fire him, although he's a great leader of men. I actually got to meet him, right, during the OTAs period this offseason, and he seemed like a good guy and stuff. But, yeah, I will say this. If we lose this game, man, a good organization would fire the head coach. So, that being said, I do want to ask you guys one last question. And we didn't get into any NBA talk throughout this live stream, but
that's okay. No one cares.
Okay, John, hold on. You're supposed to be covering the Bulls, okay? So I want to get your thoughts.
Of course.
Chicago Bulls in this stacked Eastern Conference. Do you think they could potentially make the playoffs this season?
They'll make the playoffs, but that's it. They're not going anywhere significant, and that's why I say who cares, because they're going to do what they do every year, or at least now in recent memory, which I'm cool with them making it. It's better than watching them, mire in mediocrity with Fred Hoiberg and company. I mean, it's nice to see them win, but at the end of the day, do you have enough firepower to get to the finals? Definitely not. So this is going to be another year where maybe they'll win their first playoff series, which would be a huge accomplishment. But I think that's as far as they're going to go.
I could see them going deep, and only for one specific reason. If they stay healthy, I think they have a shockingly deep team. They have a lot of role players that will end up playing significant minutes, like Javonte Green, who will, hustle on defense, give you some blocks, rebounds, points in the paint. They remind me of almost like the Utah Jazz in the sense of they have two stars, none of which alone are superstars, Utah Jazz before the trade, and then a fairly deep team. So if they can stay healthy, I could see them going on a run. Although now that I say that, the Utah Jazz is a bad analogy because they historically kept losing in the playoffs, but it's going to be tough in a stacked Eastern Conference. I think they'll do better than the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Stop.
I don't know. Any fans of that franchise, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Cap. Stop it. Stop it. Paul, I'm going to cut you off there, okay? Cleveland Cavaliers are a better team than the Chicago Bulls. Yes, everybody talks about how the Chicago Bulls top of the conference before all those injuries. Cleveland Cavaliers were also top of the conference before all those injuries. And not only, unlike the Bulls, did they remain stagnant this offseason and not do anything to really substantially improve their team, the Cleveland Cavaliers acquired one Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz team that you just mentioned, right? Donovan Mitchell, not a superstar, but he's a fringe type of superstar. He's on the border, right, between star and superstar, and he's only 25 years old. He's only going to improve. And you guys already know how high I am on Evan Mobley, and I think he could be a Kevin Garnett type of player in this NBA. I think he has all the tools to be a superstar in this league, and he's going to be an all-star in no time. You have a Jared Allen, right, who was an all-star last season. Maybe he backed himself into an all-star appearance, but he's still a very good player, 16-10 on the season. You also have, how could I forget, Darius Garland, the starting point guard of the team, was an all-star last season, took a huge leap forward before the start of the season, and I think he's only going to continue to climb and climb before he eventually, like Evan Mobley, reaches superstar status. So stop it, Paul. Stop it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland Cavaliers are a better team. I'm sorry. I get it. DeMar DeRozan, you guys love him. Zach LaVine, okay. Lonzo Ball, okay.
Not even gonna play.
Yeah, he might even play. Yeah,
right.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we talking about, Paul?
How about those Wizards? Bradley Beal.
We will. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. John, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I did want to end on this.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen was a part of that trade for Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Paul.
Lauri
finally found his groove. He finally found his groove in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In important games, he was hitting threes. Every important game of the season, Lauri Markkanen had 20 points. Every important game of the season. I know Donovan Mitchell, you're going to rely on him more.
Oh, yeah.
In the regular season, but that was a huge loss. I agree with John. That's kind of underappreciated. Hopefully Evan Mobley will sort of move more into that 4 role anyway. So maybe it's not so big of a deal, but I agree. That is kind of underrated.
Oh, yeah. Cavs are better. But you mentioned the Wizards. You guys think I'm not high on the Commanders. Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. I'm not high on the Wizards at all. At all. They're a trash franchise that decided to give the great Bradley Beal. So a couple things on Bradley Beal. I don't know if you guys saw. There was a verified report, that Washington, D.C. had announced Bradley Beal Day. Bradley Beal Day. A guy that doesn't come close to deserving that honor. Yes, he does great work in the community. Yes, so did John Wall. But what has Bradley Beal done on the court for this Washington Wizards franchise? Zilch. Nothing. And that is what bad organizations do. And bad, I'm not going to say fan base. The Wizards fan base is awesome. Like, I'm a part of it. Like, I know people were a part of it, but just because we don't really know great quality, like pro basketball in DC, I feel like you get things like that, right? We don't have a Chicago storied history of basketball in our city like Chicago does. But with that being said, yeah, the Wizards aren't good. Everybody keeps throwing around Will Barton. Oh, we made a move for him. Oh, we made a move for Monte Morris, starting point guard of our team. He's going to be the answer. Kristaps Porzingis. Oh, the unicorn. Oh, he's going to be a star if he stays healthy. Big if he stays healthy, right? Big if, right? Even bigger than Anthony Davis staying healthy. And people in this fan base still are high on him. And I don't get it. I don't get it. The Wizards are going to be bad, especially I talked about this at the very beginning, how stacked this Eastern Conference is. I mean, the Cleveland Cavaliers only got better. The Chicago Bulls are no joke. They're still going to be there in the mix. I mean, you got obviously the Celtics. Whoa, the whole Udoka situation. Oh my. And the Miami Heat as well. Brooklyn Nets will be there if Ben Simmons actually plays regular season games. You got the Philadelphia 76ers, who I am still high on. I mean, you got the Atlanta Hawks as well, who just acquired DeJounte Murray to pair alongside Trae Young, and I believe John Collins is also still there. I mean, East is stacked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you got
the
Daniel
Wizards.
Gafford.
Yeah.
What was that? Oh, stop it, John.
Yeah. Wizards
play
might
any
have
defense.
a worse. They might have a worse year than the commies. That's how it's looking.
Oh, so Paul, don't put that into the. No, you didn't need to say that. I already said, they're a bad friend. No, this is already bad. This is already torture. I have a friend that's from LA, and just bring up the Dodgers, the Rams, the Lakers. I mean, they just won a championship 2 years. I get it. The Nats won and all that, but bro, I'm telling you the truth. The two teams that if they actually win a championship here in DC, that most people will care about the most are by far the Commanders, even with everything they've been through. Bro, we have a parade if we win a playoff game, right? Or even get to the playoffs, right? I can't imagine us winning a championship here in my lifetime. And then the Wizards, right? Basketball and football reign supreme, honestly. And, it sucks because those two teams have been the worst here in DC for a long, long time. James, our guy James, in the chat, Boyer boys.
What about that Boyer dodgeball team? Remember, we won freshman year. We won the championship. Boyer dodgeball in Tremillos.
Our co-ed basketball team won too. Can't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot. I don't think I was a part of that one. That's why. Sorry, my bad.
It's all good. Always remember Henry, man. Klay Thompson in his prime. James, that's right. But with that being said, thank you, fellas, so much for joining. It's always a great time. I know John's super busy. I know, Paul, you're super busy as well. It means a lot to me. It's great to catch up, and hope your lives are doing well outside of this live stream. But any last words before we sign off, John?
No, really appreciate it. I enjoyed the trip down memory lane as always. I always enjoy coming on and talking with you guys. Great to catch up. We had some great times. I'll play some more. Could still be in the future. And I wish both of you guys the best too, moving forward. But everything that you guys are trying to accomplish and get done. I can't believe you both are still kind of in school. Man, that sucks. I feel bad for you guys. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. It's going to be a bittersweet game. Somebody's got to win. Somebody in this call is going to win tonight.
Yeah.
And someone's going to be on tomorrow with a flaming rampage. It's either going to be me or you, Nati. So I guess we'll have to take a coin flip on that, huh?
I will say this, if the Commanders lose, I'll be happy that, it's the Chicago Bears. I got a lot of love for Chicago. I mentioned this at the top of the stream. It is my second home. I miss it. I'm out here in New York. I'm not going to lie. I miss it. And so we'll see, guys. We'll see. Great job, Kings. Appreciate it, James. Great comment to end the live stream. And with that being said, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the DMV Sports Zone channel. We like to post fire content like this as much as possible. Also, go follow our Twitter page at DMV Sports Zone, Instagram page, all lowercase DMV Sports Zone, and our TikTok as well at DMV Sports Zone as well. And hope you guys have a great rest of your night. We timed this perfectly, guys. The game is right about to start. And like John said, one of us is going to be mad.